everyone. I'll share a little bit of my story. It's a little different. I've been an entrepreneur, business owner for over 20 years myself. Slater Success Coaching is not the first business I built. I got into the printing business when I was in the late 80s. I'm not going to say how old I was. You kind of either take your iPhones out and do the math as I go along or figure it out. Okay, I got into the printing business in the late 80s. And I navigated a very male-dominated field. There was not very many women print salespeople. But I knew I could make a living. I came out of corporate events and catering. I had worked for 2 different women entrepreneurs. And one thing I was determined to do was to be a business owner. I really didn't care what kind of business I was going to own, but that's what I was going to do. Navigated the guys, created my own niche market, which we're going to talk a little bit more about, went after women who were purchasing printing. And unfortunately in Manhattan, which is where I came down from today, those were in the publishing industry, which was the lowest paid industry, or one of the lowest paid industries in New York City. So they became my clients. Had my first child in 92, became a business owner, a small partner in 93. So, okay, gave birth again. Okay, we're on a roll. I became a small partner in a printing company, in a normal-sized printing company. What happened was the other junior partner immediately within 6 months exited, said, I will not work for women. Not unusual in the field. Remember that I'm giving you the time frame points. Said, I will not work for a woman, I'm out of here. He had been there for 20 years and walked out the door on a Friday. A little bit of an upheaval. I said, that's okay, let's make a bigger company. We're a small boutique firm, let's merge this thing. I went out, I started meeting with some of the other guys, young, old, intermediate, had a lot of conversations, a hell of a lot of lunches, to be honest with you. And came up with another 2, we sat down, talked, let's try it out, we got married. Not with my children, but you know what? When you have business partners, you actually spend more time in that marriage than in the marriage at home. So you might want to do a little bit of living together first. We got married, built a $3.5 million company based all on service-based. We did not own a piece of equipment. We were complete, what was considered brokers at the time. So you had a very low overhead, great profit margin, etc. Went on, did this for 5 years. I was looking for a resource so I could have another kid. That was really my goal in the merger, is to have child number 2. I'm really upfront about this whole thing, okay? And for the women in the room, you gotta know. You have to understand what your plan is. And guys, the world's changing with business and raising families. So did that, lasted 5 years. Another story for another day came in one Monday morning. Half the office was cleaned out, the 2 guys disappeared. I had seen the writing on the walls about 60 days beforehand, so I was not shocked. Walked into the office, files missing, cabinets missing, furniture missing. I have a receptionist and tears are rolling down her eyes, saying, Ivy, what are we going to do? I was like, oh yeah, we'll be fine. I went to my desk, started looking for business. That was the first thing I did, is I looked for business. I brought in 3 new jobs before 10:30. At 10:30 that morning, I called my husband. He goes, hey, what's going on? I haven't heard from you. He used to leave for work at 6. I used to get the kids to school, go to work on the way. And I said, listen, I really don't have a lot of time. I'm on my own. I started a new business about 8:45 this morning when I got into the office. And the only thing I really was calling you about is I need to be incorporated under a new brand and be legal before I could fill these jobs so they're all mine. So I have about a 7-day time span. Between this attorney or this one, who do you think I should call? It's all about the cash flow, guys. I got into that office, I looked at the checkbook, they didn't take the checkbook, I called the accountant, figured out I'm safe, the money is safe. They had this was way before the whole debit card thing, okay? Be that as it may, I jumped in, I said, it's my turn, let's go. Started a business called Slater Graphics that morning at 8:45. That was it. There was no capital, there was no nothing. The business was started based on the 3 jobs that showed up that morning, based on me hitting the phones and calling my existing accounts. I ran that printing company for about another 12 to 15 years, and like maybe not a lot of people in this room as of yet, but maybe a few of us had the next midlife crisis. Okay, mid to later 40s, kids are getting older. What in the world am I going to do with myself now? Oh, it's a good question. Went through that period, and I was actually, I'm from New York City. I took the train down late this afternoon, hung out with Mike and a few other people here, Amy. We had a good time, and you know, anybody here, who else, anybody ever had, it doesn't have to be a midlife crisis, but the crisis of what in the world am I going to do next? Thank you. Okay? I had that crisis, okay? It doesn't matter when it happens. And a friend and colleague of mine said to me, you ought to become a coach. And I looked at her and I said, are you out of your mind? You want me to work with children? I mean, I'm a mom, and I went to the soccer games on Saturday mornings, but this is not what I was going to do. And she goes, are you nuts? Come on, this whole coaching thing that's coming around. Did some research, figured it out, actually got myself certified, went back to school at night, opened Slater Success in January of 08. At this point, in 08, I had 2 kids, 2 businesses, 2 homes, and 1 husband. The original back from 85, not the marriage, which was the business partnership. Okay? And, you know, the first thing I learned about starting Slater Success, and I was like, I got this. I opened a business on the fly. This is not a big deal. I got this. Guess what? It didn't work. I failed. Nothing was working. I thought I had all the answers. I thought I had all the solutions. I knew what I was doing. I knew how to create money. I knew how to create cash flow. What I didn't know was this industry and how to conquer it. Not being always the smartest person, but and damn well rather stubborn, which has been a great success tool at times, but there's times you just gotta know when to get out of your own way. So, and this was one of those times. For the first couple of years, I was struggling. Not pulling an income, I was running the 2 businesses. Come to year 3, I was completely divested of Slater Graphics, my printing company. And year 3, I didn't pull $30,000. I got 2 kids in Manhattan, guys. That's not gonna fly. So there was no venture capital. There was nobody who was gonna invest in me. So what I did is I took my money and I invested in myself. Well, I didn't take exactly my money. At this was 08. Okay, so remember the financial times that were going on 08, and then we crashed in 09, right? My husband's business miraculously went under in 08. That was a $10 million company. So now we have these 2 kids, and we're looking at ourselves and said, we got a problem. And I knew $37,000 wasn't going to cut that problem. I took my younger ones, my older one is now approaching college. My younger one had 1 year of college savings. I took that and I invested that money that I had for my younger kid into my business. And I said, I have 1 year. I made it back in 90 days. Wow. Now, again, there's times we've got to get out of our own way. And so I want to give you today some business tips of what went on, okay? Of things that you can take away to grow your businesses, whether you're a service-based business, you're a product, you're a tech firm, it doesn't matter what you are. So I just wanted to, as Mike and I chatted about this, he goes, give them some tips. You've been around the block. You've done some good things, we've all done some bad. I say I've learned more from the mistakes I've made than the coups, the successes I've had. So, let's start with really number 1, and that's why we're all here tonight. You came out to a tech meetup, right? So you guys are the networkers. You're the networkers, right? How going to pick up the phone and do some follow-up tomorrow. Actually talk to somebody else. You're going to talk to the person you're sitting next to. You're going to reach out and have conversations with people. You really have to actually connect, and the networking event is the beginning. We cannot use a networking event as we used a carnival, which means collect all those business cards and actually think you're going to get the stuffed animal at the door prize on the way out. Okay? It doesn't work like the raffle tickets at the carnival. You're here to actually make solid connections. It's the connections that build your business. People ask me all the time, well, I'm going out networking, Ivy, it doesn't work. I haven't gotten a client yet. I was like, you're actually shopping for clients? Are you in Bloomingdale's? We're going out to actually build solid relationships. Solid relationships lead to funding, they lead to connections. For me, Mike asked me tonight, how did Mike and I reach? Mike said, okay, he's a client of mine. He's a client of Slater Success. But Mike and I didn't meet in that way. We met through a great guy in New York City who's an avid networker and said, hey, you guys should talk. You got a lot in common. Mike was coming into New York, so we sat down and we had some tea one afternoon. And we just chatted and got to know each other. And then we talked again, and we chatted again. This is how relationships are born. And now tonight I'm here in front of you sharing and speaking. It's building your core relationships. My first client, who is a client today, joined a small program that I had that I started 5 years ago. I met her at my very, 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 very first networking group that I joined. I joined this group because I decided to build my own networking group. So I said, okay, well, I already know all my family and friends, so I need to get some other people here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go out and I'm going to go start talking to some, they have networking. When I started in printing, there was no networking groups. Okay? So I went out to this networking group, a national organization. It had a group in New York, no longer exists in New York, but it is around. It's a women's group. Said this will be lovely. It's once a month for lunch, meet some nice women. And it was a lovely holistic base, some smart ladies, but a lot of gratitude, and there were some presentations. I said, this sounds great. I met a core group of great women, 20 or 30 that came in and out and rotated each month. Well, with this, interestingly enough, I decided, you know what, I want to try one of these teleclass things. I want to try one of this group thing. Start a small group something. I heard about it, I read about it, did some studying on it. This sounds really good format. Let me give it a whirl. Okay? One of the things that I love what Claudia referenced earlier is the creativity in business as a business owner. You've got to be creative. You've got to be willing to try new things, and don't worry about failing. Every time you fail, you learn something that you're going to succeed off of. Lo and behold, I said to the group of ladies, hey ladies, I'm going to have this call. Anybody want to come on? So about 6 of them came on. 5 of them joined the program. That was pretty curious. One of them today, 5 years later, is still a client. Anybody want to do the math? The phone set I told you to take out early on and you could play with the numbers? For 5 years, she's been paying me monthly. The relationship was created over networking. Another type of networking, things that are not so formal like this. This is what I want you to start thinking out of the box. How many people are here involved in charities, doing good, organizations that have nothing to do with business, just involved because you really care? When I opened Slater Success, I got involved with Dress for Success. I said, you know what, damn it? If I'm going to help women business owners build their businesses, I'm going to give back to women in business. I'm going to help these women. These women get my personal email. I speak for free for them all the time. They can access me anytime. So I was just starting because I cared. I said, this sounds great. I got to know, Joy, the CEO of Dress for Success. I thought she was a dynamite lady. Over time, I decided to actually do the math and see how much money I've made through not the ladies who were servicing a Dress for Success, but the other connections of women who are actually doing well. Okay? So that's another form of networking. Just getting out in your community, getting out in the world, building your brand. Okay? In the same way, I want you to remember you've got to know your business, you've got to know who your target market is. Who is your client? That's where you're showing up. Who are the great connections for you? What's the verbiage, the communication of your industry, your marketplace? Know that, talk it, share it, be open about it. Stop being broad. Forget the broad spectrum. Bring it down, bring it as narrow as you can. The more narrow you are, the more successful you will be. Point in fact, my target market is women business owners. 90% of my business is women business owners. The other 10% are a few great men, one in the room, and some women in corporate, including Douglas Elliman, Van Cleef & Arpels, and a few other companies. When I speak, my target market, my marketing, my communication is speaking to my target market. Be really clear on who you're communicating with. Point 3 that I want to cover real quick tonight is understand what revenue generating activities are. How many people here get overwhelmed with their to-do list? Oh, come on. I did a call with all my high-level clients earlier today, and that's all we talked about for 60 minutes. And on that call, we had CFOs, attorneys, digital media companies, social media companies, companies of all ilk. So the overwhelm in the to-do list. So guys, you're tech people. I'm not. If you haven't figured out my age by now, you should be pretty damn close. Okay? I didn't grow up in the technology world. I learned technology through my children. Okay? Yet, I still learned to have systems that actually organize my to-do list. I have a CRM system that keeps me on track and building these relationships and staying ahead of the game. Okay, so people don't drop through when I don't want them to, when I want to stay connected to you. Okay? I have a few other systems, we don't need to do that. What system I really have for my to-do list is pencil and paper. And every day, I write down everything that really needs to get done in my business by me. And then I take a separate pen. It could be a highlighter, it could be red, it could be green if we're talking revenue generating activities. And I'm circling the first 3 things that are going to bring money into my business. 3 things that are going to bring money into my business. Why? Because if you're not bringing money into your business, whether it be by investments, by sales, by marketing, then you're going to be out of business, and what's the point? You've got to be a business owner. You've got to look at what is bringing your business forward. Circle those 3 things. Those are the first 3 things you do today in the morning. Non-negotiable. Okay. In finishing this up today, I have a couple of gifts for you. Okay? So I just finished a free report that hasn't even made it to my website yet. So I'm giving it to you as a gift tonight. It's called ROI. Amy, if you could just pass them out. ROI is return on your initiative. It's the 5 things you need to know about creating money and sales to your business. Remember, a business that's not moving forward, you've got to have the basic key steps, which is your money, your sales, and how to manage this and grow this. All you have to do on this form is fill it out so I can get your information, and my team is going to be getting you the ROI, return on your initiative. The other thing is I did open up my calendar for a few slots. If anybody wants to have a one-on-one conversation with me, any obstacles, struggles you might be having in your business and growing it, moving it forward, just see Amy or myself at the end of the presentations. I'm happy to jump on the phone with a few of you. And lastly, check out the website. You're happy. One thing I learned about being a business owner is never say you're not going to do anything. I am not a writer. I always said I would never write a book. My very first paying client said to me, "You taking notes on this whole stuff you're doing because you're going to write it down and write a book?" And I was like, "No, not on your life. I'm never going to write a book. So be careful what you say." Last year I did come out with my book, Conquering Your Fear of Money, A Woman's Guide to Business Success. You can find this on the website if you're interested or ask me about anything. I'm available. I want to all your success. Grow your businesses, grow your careers, and bring it into your life and enjoy it. Thanks.
We have a few minutes for questions. We have a few minutes for questions. Just hopefully many of our speakers will be able to stay for the networking after. So we're almost on time. So there should be a half hour for networking afterwards. And if not, we'll be down in Han Dynasty, at the bar, doing whatever's left of networking. So questions.
Do we have any questions? Wait till the end performance. Anything you guys want to know or ask me? We covered it that well. Sure.
How do you balance your...
One second.
How did you balance work life during those years?
Thank you. Thank you for asking it, because it's a great question. So I said I became a business owner when it was 96. Okay. My daughter, who was born in 95, again, she's about 22 and a half. She'll be 23 this summer. My son will be 20 this summer. How did I balance it? I'm going to tell you really point blank. Support team. Know to build your business with good key support. Do not be cheap. Do not be cheap. Do not be frugal. You want your life, especially with your kids, was really important to me. I was vice president of the PA or PTA when my kids were younger in elementary school. I was class parent probably 5 years. I did field trips, and I did it because I had the support. I had the support at home, and I had the support in the office, and that was before cell phone size. Now you're much more connected and you can manage much more, but I believe the key to work-life balance is don't try to be everything to everyone all the time. When I talked about prioritizing, a little bit, in the whole overwhelm and the revenue generating activities, you got to prioritize. The first thing you do is in being a mom or having a life, as well as business. I look at it as what am I saying yes to now, and how am I prioritizing this? So if I say yes to this, what has to be covered here? If I say yes to this, what has to be covered here? I got home at 8 o'clock last night. I was in Utah, Park City, the canyon, skiing with my son. It was his spring break. I took 4.5 days off, and I did one emergency call with a client, checked a few emails. I was back at work early this morning. I'm here this evening. It's knowing what you want and prioritizing it and having the support. Any other questions?
Great. Thank you, Ivy.
Great, thanks.